What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to another video. For today's video, we are going to break down a high school fight that took place in Turlock High School out in California a little over a month ago. Now, the reason that this video stood out to me in particular was the fact that a knife was used in a high school fight, which again is not very common these days. Now, I will not be showing you the entire video. I will show you little bits and pieces because it'll help tie in everything that we are discussing in this video, as well as the techniques and the training that you will be seeing towards the end as well. Now, before we proceed, make sure you have hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so that you never miss a video going forward. And let's get to it. So a little background on the situation. Beginning of November, a high school fight breaks out at Turlock High School in California. 2 students are involved. 1 student pulls a knife. The student with the knife slashes and stabs the other student over 23 times in the course of this altercation. Now, the video itself does not start right at the beginning of the altercation. It simply starts with the one kid grabbing the kid's shirt while stabbing and slashing him with the knife. Therefore, as we proceed forward with this breakdown, we cannot assume anything before that. We do not know how the fight started. We do not know why the fight started. We do not know the situation in which the knife was pulled. Did the kid approach the situation with a knife in hand? Did he draw the knife in the middle of the fight? Were they trading punches? Were they grappling? We do not know any of those details. We only know what is shown in the video, which again is the one kid grabbing his shirt, slashing and stabbing repeatedly as the other kid is frantically trying to get away. And that is what we are going to focus on. Now, as sad as it is that events like this happen, and even more sad is the fact that people stand around videotaping it, it does benefit us self-defense instructors because we are able to visually see some of these situations, learn from them, and then teach our students so that if they are ever to encounter something even remotely similar, they have somewhat of an idea on how to survive those situations and hopefully get away with less wounds, less injuries than what took place in this video. Now, as you will see in this image above, you can see just how much damage that the one student took from the knife. Therefore, I start right away by emphasizing that if a knife is drawn at any point and you have no other choice but to engage, you have to anticipate and expect that you will get slashed and cut and potentially stabbed. If you are ignorant enough to think that you will not get injured in a knife fight, then you need to reevaluate the way that you are training and the way that you are approaching self-defense as a whole, because it is inevitable. Our only goal when it comes to defending ourselves against a knife in which we are forced to engage is that we take as little damage as possible. Now, the clips that you are seeing right now are just glimpses of what's going on during the fight. And the big thing I want you to focus on is not so much what's going on around them, not so much the open area, not so much all the students, but it's the fact that the kid is frantically trying to get away, and the sole reason that he is not able to is because the attacking kid is grabbing hold of his shirt incredibly tightly. And anytime that the kid even remotely starts to loosen that grip, he continues to grab, or he grabs somewhere else on the shirt. That key point right there is the biggest reason as to why this kid struggled to get out of that situation as a whole. Now, you will notice that the second he manages to break free from that grip, he takes off running, which is exactly what you should be doing in those situations. Now, yes, those that are watching this from the beginning, they're in a big open area, there's a lot of space, so yes, absolutely, he should take off running and should not engage by any means. But again, we do not know how this fight started. It could have been a random attack. It could have been something where they were already trading punches, and by the time the knife was drawn, it was too late. He had no other opportunity to run. Now, yes, if you are in a situation in which a knife is drawn and you have the opportunity to run like hell. The movements and techniques that I will be discussing and showing you throughout this video, we obtained through a buddy of mine named Aaron. He runs Knife Control Concepts out of Ohio. I will post all of his information down below in the description, so please be sure to check him out, give him some credit for those. So he evaluated this video, he came up with these techniques as well. We discussed it a little bit, and I pretty much told him, I said, look, I'm gonna take what you've learned, what you've studied, what you've formulated, and I'm gonna put it to the test with my students. We're gonna kind of play around with it a little bit, maybe add some, maybe take some away, and we're just gonna have fun with it. So before we go any forward with the training, take a look at the techniques themselves. If he is grabbing my shirt in any way, shape, or form, whether it's up on the top, whether it's on the sleeve, whether it's on the side, and if you look in the video, the kid's literally just reaching and grabbing whatever he can possibly get. So anytime I try and run away, he's pulling me back in. If I try and turn, he's pulling me back in. And it makes it very difficult for me to be able to do anything because he's constantly trying to keep me within range of the knife. But we now have to focus on grip control. And that is crucial in situations like that where this grip is preventing me from being able to do anything else. Because let's say I do try and start doing this, and let's say he rips, let's say I reach for here and all of a sudden he rips me back or something, and I can't get that arm and he just continues to stab me. So now, yes, this is a threat, but because of this grip or this grip, I cannot engage in anything else because he's preventing my body from doing what I want to do. And that's where this grip becomes our main priority. Now, it's not one where I want to focus on breaking the grip here, doing all these fancy things, tying and ripping and kicking, because again, as I start doing all this, he's just going to continue to stab. So the techniques that we're going to go, and we're going to run through 5 today, is things that simply just as soon as possible, they isolate this arm and essentially dominate the grip. And again, a rule of thumb with grips, you either break the grip, if that's an option, or you dominate the grip. If we're going outside in, idea that I'm bringing my elbow over, under, and I'm looking for the underhook. There's a chance that this grip's gonna be very difficult for him to hold on to, especially as I start cranking on that shoulder. Now, the grip becomes useless. I'm up here. Now I can start focusing on either grabbing here at the wrist, grabbing up on the elbow, whatever I need to do to start isolating this arm, and then eventually we can start working towards 2-on-1 grips and whatever we need to do from there. This time, inside out, I'm looking for this motion. Now I need to make sure that I catch the elbow on here, but again, we go based off of what we catch. If I just manage to catch here, yes, I technically don't have as much because he can easily start pulling his elbow back, so I might have to readjust and change my grip right away. Ideally, I want to get this deep enough to where I get this pressure. Because now, again, if he starts trying to pressure this stab into me, I can start cranking. It makes it a little bit difficult for him to get that momentum as I start cranking and elevating this elbow out. Notice that with both of these, I am not hooking these and standing straight up front. As soon as I get these hooks, I'm working off at an angle, because even if he does try to stab me, which he can still make contact, it's a lot harder, which means it's a little bit easier for me to start working to defend it. Turn and fucking run. Just like full throttle. Turn, rip the shirt, go. Maybe somehow he breaks the grip free, and just run. That's it. Now let's assume that, let's say I turn to run, he had a real good grip, and what's gonna happen now? He's gonna pull me right back in, right? I'm going to turn and full throttle close the gap, but where's my focus going? The attacking arm. Now, I know which hand's grabbing me, I know which hand has the knife, so as soon as I come back and he's getting ready, I'm full blown on. My head, realistically in these situations, if I'm coming back, my head is going right to your face. And I'm just coming right in, grabbing here, tying up on the arm, switch and work on these grips. Last option is simply just completely isolate the arm. So again, similar to like when the person does a collar tie, and we shrug it off and we turn it into a Russian tie 2-on-1 circumstance. Same idea goes here. Only difference is I grab at the wrist, I grab at the tricep, I'm going to turn my shoulder and my chest. Now, again, a lot of times he's gonna feel the pressure of the wrist and they'll let go in the process, or this pressure alone is enough to break the grip as it is. Once I get here, I have to go to work immediately. I'm working, throwing knees, working, trying to work these back grips, work to the 2-on-1 grips, work your strikes. You use that position to get to a more dominant position, to get them to the ground, to start working in your strikes, whatever you need to do. But this is just your way of just isolating this arm right away. I want you to kind of flow through all the techniques. I'm in here, let's say he starts stabbing, I catch it here, he starts really resisting, he starts pushing the knife into me, perfect. I switch over here. Practice it, good. Now to restart, he grabs me again. Work my underhook. Perfect, same thing. He starts working in here, so I come in this position, like 20%. I just want you moving. Again, we'll put knives in your hands after this drill, but just start moving around a little bit, get comfortable with the different grips, and get comfortable on how they feed together. Now, a couple things again to take note about some of these techniques. They do not have to be perfect. They do not have to work every single time. But if you find them effective, if it works for the majority of people, it's a great place to start and it's a great thing to build off of. And the best part is, again, especially if you're brainstorming with other instructors, is you're gonna be able to pull from different disciplines to come up with these techniques. So again, these 5 are shown by a buddy of mine. We took them, we played with them, we expanded on them a little bit, but we were really just looking to test them and see from what he discovered to what we've discovered to what we broke down to really kind of see what works. The big point is this: you have to learn how to control grips in situations like that, again, especially if weapons are involved. Regardless, grip control is crucial. If someone grabs you, you grab back. If you can't break the grip, you dominate the grip. Simple rules when it comes to grip fighting, but because a bladed weapon is involved, a lot of times people lose focus on the grip aspect and they focus 100% on the weapon aspect, which is a good idea, except for the fact that if that collar tie or whatever it is that's grabbing you, if that's controlling your body movements, it's gonna be very difficult for you to focus on the weapon, which is what we found out while we were training. Now, before we get too much into the actual live training, what we typically do in our classes, especially as we're training this over the course of a few weeks, we start off nice and slow. We start off just kind of flowing through the techniques, kind of getting the feel for them. We start playing around with different flow options. Half the time we don't even put a weapon into each other's hands until we've already started to kind of get the flow down a little bit. And basically we're just getting comfortable going through the motions, getting our reps in, locking the grip right away, focusing on the grip right away, getting off to an angle, creating that head pressure, creating the hip pressure, doing everything that we need to do properly to ensure that we are in a dominant position of some sort. As the weeks go by, we start picking up the intensity a little bit. We put the knives in each other's hands. We get a little bit more aggressive with it. But again, we're still only going like 40, maybe 50% tops, but we're still focused more so on the flow and control aspect rather than really going full throttle. Because again, we kind of save that towards the end in which we tie it all together. Now, one thing I emphasized to my students to do while we were training this specific situation was every once in a while, ignore the grip. Ignore however they're grabbing your shirt and just focus 100% on getting to the knife. Because you're not gonna know just how much that grip really impacts your ability to fight and defend yourself if you're focused on it every second of the way. So sometimes we would focus on isolating it immediately and then, working to control the knife. Others, we would try and do both at the same time. And others, I said, just completely ignore it, do everything you possibly can to get to the knife and ignore whatever they're doing with your shirt. And we found a couple things as a result of that. And again, you're gonna see some of this in the footage. It's a lot harder to deal with a knife situation with a collar grab. Because the only reason I couldn't get in is you kept pushing my collar away as you were trying to stab me. Whereas like if you're just grabbing my head or my arm, like I can grab that.
So in that situation, would it be bad to take a step back?
Yes and no. Well, the only reason I was trying not to take a step back, and he was trying to push me back, was because I had my hand on the knife. I had my hand here, so I was trying to close in to get like the heavy control, whereas he was pushing me away while pulling his arm back, trying to get that free. And the only way I was able to get out of that is to start coming here, in which he let go, and that's when I came in right away.
I didn't want to lose my grip.
No, but because of that, because of that grip. So, shit. All right, who wants to go? So we really try to emphasize the fact that when you have those grips, you have to isolate them immediately. And there's a lot of times throughout the training where myself or any of the others would start yelling at one another, focus on the grip, get the grip, isolate the grip, isolate the grip. And the moment that they would switch their focus to whatever they were doing and isolate the grip, however which way they chose, it was instantly easier for them to obtain the knifing hand and control the knife and start working to a more dominant position, and we go from there. So we were really able to determine through pressure testing and extensive testing that isolating that grip is crucial. Doesn't mean you have to hold on for dear life the entire time, doesn't mean that you have to break the grip off. Simply just grabbing it some way, shape, or form that prevents the attacker from being able to use it against you is key. At the same time, you can also use grips against them. So maybe we don't isolate that arm, maybe we get a better grip and we grab their shirt and we actually pull them into us so that we can have a closer reach on the knifing hand. So stuff like that is a lot of what we were kind of playing around with, and we found it to be incredibly successful. When we are training these situations, I emphasize again to my students, and sometimes we forget, but I emphasize it to everybody, that you are to continue with whatever you are working on, regardless of what the knife is doing. Meaning, if you're in a situation and your training partner manages to stab you or they manage to cut you, even if it's considered a deadly strike by any means or a lethal strike, you are to continue going, because you do not know in a real situation how your body is going to react. And if you start training with the mindset that every time it touches you, the fight's over, it may have literally just touched your hand. And we've had students in the past, and including this past few weeks, where people would get a tiny cut on the hand, or they get jabbed in the shoulder, or maybe just cut across the side a little bit, and they would completely stop, when knowing damn well that a lot of times those wounds or slashes are not going to really do much damage, and that you 100% can keep going. Again, look at the facts of this video alone. The kid was stabbed 23 times and he still managed to get away from the altercation. Yes, he was airlifted, he was in hospital for a while, he severed very, very critical wounds, but he survived. So that means that when we are training these situations, you are to follow through 100% until the end, until the objective is completed, which in our training was simply just to isolate and control the knifing hand for at least a few seconds. So once we got to those situations, again, because we were recording all this, we were discussing all this, we would then go back, rewatch the footage, see how everybody was doing pretty much independently, and kind of give our feedback a little bit to see what areas we can improve upon. But across the board, we were emphasizing that you are to continue. Under no circumstances are you to stop. You continue going through the motions until the goal has been met. The main thing that we learned throughout this entire process, those grips are not to be ignored no matter what the circumstances are. Whether or not a weapon is in play, grip control has such a big impact on the outcome of a fight and an altercation to begin with that you have to isolate them or you have to dominate them, period. Simple as that. You cannot ignore them and you cannot let them settle, because the more that we allow those grips to settle without dealing with them, the worse that the situation became. Take advantage of situations like this that are filmed. Again, I'm not condoning filming these events. However, we can visually see them, we can learn from them. It's not like we're just hearing about it discussed, but we're visually able to see what exactly occurred, and therefore we're able to develop specific training scenarios that focus on those types of situations to help prevent other people from finding themselves in that same type of position or situation as a whole. And it allows us to create better programs, it allows us to train and teach more people and educate more people on how to protect themselves, and overall, we are potentially saving lives out there by taking something that happened, a terrible event that happened to somebody else, and allowing us to turn that into a positive and training other people so that we could potentially save lives going forward. Now, one thing that we did not do without our training this time is we did not incorporate strikes, because again, we were simply just focused on one variable, and that was the grip control and how the grip impacted the overall outcome of the fight. Sometimes if you add in too many factors, such as the ability to throw kicks, the ability to throw punches, the ability to strike as a whole, sometimes that takes away from what the main focus is, which again was the grip control and how it impacts everything else. So by simply just saying, hey, no striking period, you can throw each other around, you can grapple up, that's fine, just no strikes yet. I'm a big believer in playing around with different variables, because you can get drastically different results, and it's fun to kind of sometimes add variables, remove variables, because you never know what you're gonna get in the real world. You never know how your body's gonna react, you never know what you're gonna come up against, so sometimes it's good to train within those realms so that your body and mind are prepared no matter what happens. Hopefully we can apply enough pressure within our training that allows you to kind of get the emotions going of what it would be like in those situations as close as we can possibly get, to help you just mentally prepare for what is it like in the situation? What is it like when I don't have an out? What is it like if someone's just grabbing hold of me and slashing at me and striking me and coming at me and I don't have anywhere else to run? What do I need to focus on? And again, as you will see, there's a lot of times where people would struggle, including myself, where we'd focus on the grip and then focus on the knife, focus on the grip and focus on the knife, and we weren't able to consciously think of like, okay, take your breath, control one, control the other, work to better positions. Again, a lot's that's going on and you just panic sometimes. So again, by doing this over and over again and being open-minded to hearing each other out, listening to each other's criticism, that allows all of us to grow in these situations and really progress overall within our self-defense.
My bad shirt.
Oh my god.
Yeah, just day went flying. I was like,
So I hope you enjoyed that breakdown for today. I'm hoping to be able to do a little bit more of these breakdowns going forward with different situations that we come across, because I think that this is a great way to learn, one for myself, but two for you all. I'm able to educate you all. Again, I'll never just discuss one of these. I'll always pressure test them within my students and myself and make sure that whatever it is that we're talking about and discussing actually does work and it's applicable to the street. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, if you have any recommendations, drop them down below. If you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button. It does help with the algorithm and it helps other people see this video that normally wouldn't see it. So please give it a like, drop it down in the comments if you did appreciate this video, again, what you thought about it, and hit that subscribe button if you have not already, because we are on the road to 2,000 subscribers. So hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and as always, we'll see you next time. Stay safe.
Subscribe!